This connection is not ending in silence. It is not ending in confusion. It is not ending with two people pretending they do not feel what they feel. Mark my words. This is the connection that moves from tension into peace, from fear into honesty, from uncertainty into a real commitment that can actually become marriage. And I need you to understand why this matters, because the energy here shows a person who has been fighting themselves. Not fighting you, not truly. They may have acted distant. They may have pulled back. They may have made you question whether they were serious, whether they were ready, whether this was all in your head. But underneath that silence, there has been a battle happening inside them. A battle between pride and love, between fear and surrender, between the part of them that wanted to stay protected and the part of them that already knew you were the person they could build a life with. That is why this connection has felt so intense, because it was never casual, it was never simple, it was never just attraction. This was two hearts meeting before both people were fully ready to admit what that meeting meant, and now something is changing. The old conflict is losing power. The need to be right is dissolving. The fear of vulnerability is starting to look smaller than the fear of losing you. And that is where everything turns. Your person is beginning to realize that love is not a game they can win by staying guarded. They cannot keep protecting themselves from the very person their heart keeps choosing. They cannot keep pretending distance feels better than closeness. They cannot keep acting like this connection is optional when their soul already recognizes it as home. Let me tell you what they have not said yet. They are tired. Tired of resisting. Tired of overthinking. Tired of letting old wounds make decisions that their heart does not agree with anymore. And the truth is, they are finally becoming ready to choose peace with you. Not temporary peace, not a soft apology that disappears later. Real peace. The kind that opens the door to commitment. The kind that leads to a ring. The kind that becomes a life. And when I say a life, I do not mean a fantasy. I do not mean a dream that only exists because your heart wants it so badly. I do not mean something you are forcing yourself to believe just to make the waiting feel easier. No. I mean, this connection has the kind of weight that makes a person stop and look at themselves differently. And that is what I see here with this Two of Swords. This is someone sitting between two truths. One truth says, stay guarded, stay still, do not move first, do not risk being hurt. But the other truth says, you already know. You already know who feels different. You already know who your peace is connected to. You already know whose absence does not feel like freedom, but like something missing from the room. And that is why this is not moving toward commitment, because they suddenly woke up one morning and became a completely different person. Not because everything has been easy, not because they have handled this perfectly, not because they never doubted, never froze, never tried to convince themselves that walking away would be simpler. But because every time they tried to choose distance, their heart brought them back to you. Every time they tried to compare this connection to something easier, something lighter, something that would not require so much honesty, it did not feel the same. It did not settle them. It did not reach the part of them that you reached. And that is the difference. Marriage energy is not just romance. It is not just chemistry. It is not just missing someone at night and wanting them close. Marriage energy begins when a person starts realizing that peace is not found in running anymore. Peace is found in choosing. Peace is found in telling the truth. Peace is found in building with the person their heart has already recognized, even if their mind took longer to accept it. And this person has been blindfolded for a long time, not because they could not see you, but because seeing you clearly meant they would have to make a decision. They would have to stop standing in the middle. They would have to stop letting fear hold both swords in the air. And what finally breaks through their resistance is not what you think. It is not pressure. It is not you chasing. It is not you proving your worth over and over until they finally understand it. No. What breaks through their resistance is pain. Not the kind of pain that destroys love. The kind of pain that exposes what someone has been trying so hard not to feel. And with this Three of Swords, what I am seeing here is a heart that could not keep pretending it was untouched. They tried. They really tried. They tried to act normal. They tried to move through their days like your energy was not still sitting somewhere inside them. They tried to distract themselves with work, with noise, with people who did not ask so much of their soul. But something kept happening. A memory would come back at the wrong time. A song, a place, a small detail that should not have mattered, but suddenly did. They would hear something that sounded like you. See something that reminded them of what they almost lost. Feel that strange heaviness in their chest when they realized that silence was not protecting them anymore. It was punishing them. And that is the turning point. Because for a long time, they thought avoiding this connection would keep them safe. They thought distance would make the feelings fade. They thought if they stayed still long enough, if they did not speak, if they did not choose, then eventually the intensity would pass. But it did not pass. It got louder in the quiet. It followed them into rooms where you were not present. It showed up around people who should have been easier. And that is when they started to understand something they could not ignore. Losing you would hurt more than being honest. Missing you would hurt more than being vulnerable. Living without this connection would hurt more than facing the fear that came with it. Their fear did not disappear. Let me say that clearly. Their fear did not vanish overnight. But the fear of losing you began to rise above the fear of opening their heart. And now they are not just thinking about coming back. They are thinking about coming back differently. Differently means they are not looking at you as just a feeling anymore. They are not only thinking about the pull. They are not only thinking about the chemistry. They are not only thinking about the moments where they miss your voice, your energy, your presence beside them. No, they are starting to think about what it would mean to actually choose you in real life. And with this Hanged Man, what I am seeing is someone whose whole perspective has been turned upside down. For a while, they looked at love like pressure, like a demand, like something that would take their freedom, expose their weaknesses, and ask more from them than they were ready to give. But now they are starting to see something else. They are starting to see that love with you was never meant to trap them. It was meant to steady them. It was meant to show them what safety feels like when it is not control, when it is not chaos, when it is not someone asking them to perform. just someone seeing them, knowing them, still choosing them. And that is why their vision of the future is changing. Before, they may have thought about you in intense moments, late at night, when emotions were high, when the longing came in waves. But now it is different. Now they are thinking about ordinary things, waking up and knowing you are there, making plans without wondering if someone is going to disappear. Coming home to a person who understands their silence, but also expects their honesty. Building routines, sharing space, being trusted, being accountable, being loved in a way that does not require running from themselves. That is marriage energy. Not just the ring, not just the promise, but the willingness to become someone who can be depended on. And this person is beginning to understand that if they want a life with you, they cannot keep approaching you like a temporary emotion. They have to approach you like a future. They have to stop hanging in between old fear and new truth. But before they can fully step forward, there is one wound they still have to face. And that wound has everything to do with truth, not the truth they say out loud, not the truth they can explain neatly. The truth they have been protecting themselves from, because once they admit it, they cannot go back to pretending this connection is small. And with this Ace of Swords, what I am seeing here is clarity cutting through the old story. The old story that told them love is unsafe. The old story that told them if they trust someone too deeply, they will lose control. The old story that told them commitment means being trapped, being disappointed, being abandoned, or becoming the person who gets left behind. This did not start with you. Let me say that clearly. This wound did not begin with you. You did not scare them because you were too much. You scared them because you were real. Because your love did not feel like something they could keep on the surface. It reached the place inside them where they had learned to expect disappointment, where they had learned to stay ready for betrayal, where they had learned that needing someone could become dangerous, and that is why marriage energy frightened them at first. Because marriage is not just passion. It is not just desire. It is not just two people missing each other and coming back together. Marriage asks for consistency. It asks for honesty. It asks for someone to stop hiding behind confusion and actually say, this is what I want. This is who I choose. This is where I am willing to grow. And that level of truth made them nervous, not because they did not want you, but because wanting you meant they had to become more honest than they had been in a long time. It meant they had to face the part of themselves that runs when things get serious, the part that pulls away before it can be rejected, the part that acts cold when it is actually overwhelmed. But now the sword is upright. The fog is thinning. The excuses are starting to sound weak, even to them. And what changes next is not just what they feel. It is how they begin to behave. And behavior is where you will start to notice the truth before they fully say it. Because feelings can be hidden, words can be delayed, but patterns always reveal what someone is becoming. And with this Two of Coins in reverse, what I am seeing here is someone who can no longer keep juggling two versions of themselves. The version that wants to stay detached, and the version that wants to belong. The version that acts like everything is fine. And the version that knows they have been out of balance without you. For a while, they may have tried to keep this connection in one hand and their fear in the other. They try to manage both. They try to keep control. They try to give just enough to keep the door open, but not enough to fully step through it. But that does not work anymore. Not with a connection like this. Not when their heart is asking for peace and their actions have been creating confusion. So now the silence becomes smaller but more important. Their tone softens. Their defensiveness starts to drop. They do not come in as sharp as before. They do not need to win every conversation. They start listening a little longer. They start explaining what they used to avoid. They ask questions that seem simple, but underneath them is a deeper need to feel close again. How have you been? What have you been doing? Are you okay? And it may sound ordinary, but it is not ordinary coming from someone who used to hide behind silence. This is not about a dramatic performance. This is not about someone suddenly saying everything perfectly. This is about maturity becoming visible in small choices. A check-in, a softer response, a conversation that does not end in distance, a moment where they stay present instead of disappearing. That is the first proof of readiness. Consistency. Because marriage energy cannot grow inside chaos. It needs someone who shows up, someone who stops making love feel like a guessing game, someone who understands that if they want forever, they have to begin with today. And when they finally speak honestly, what comes out may surprise you, because it will not just be about missing you. It will be about what they are finally ready to admit. And what they are ready to admit is not small. It is not just, I miss you. It is not just, I have been thinking about you. It is not just a message sent because the night got quiet and their emotions got loud. No, this goes deeper than that. And with this Four of Swords, what I am seeing here is someone who has been sitting with themselves in the silence, not running for a moment, not filling every empty space with distractions, not pretending they are fine just because they are not speaking. This is the quiet before the truth, the kind of quiet where a person finally hears their own heart without the noise of pride talking over it. And that is where the confession begins. Carefully, maybe imperfectly, maybe with pauses, maybe with words that do not come out as smoothly as you imagined, but there is sincerity in it. Because what they say next matters. They may admit that they were scared, that they pulled away because they did not know how to handle something that felt this serious, that they let old fear control their behavior, that they knew they were creating confusion, but they did not know how to stop without facing the truth. And this is where everything shifts, because accountability changes the energy, not excuses, not blaming timing, not acting like nothing happened. Accountability. The moment someone can look at the pattern and say, I do not want to keep doing this. I do not want to keep hurting you because I am afraid. I do not want to keep disappearing when what I really want is closeness. I do not want to keep acting like this connection is casual when I know it is not. That is the conversation they have been avoiding. Because once they say it, they cannot hide behind confusion anymore. Once they say it, they are admitting that this connection deserves more than silence, more than distance, more than unfinished feelings. And I need you to understand this. This confession is not only about them coming back, it is about them asking whether there is still a place for them to come back to. And that is where your power comes in, because this is not just about them choosing you. It is also about you deciding what kind of version of them is allowed back into your life. And with this death card, what I am seeing here is not an ending of love. It is the ending of an old pattern, the ending of chasing, the ending of waiting in confusion, the ending of accepting half-truths when your heart has been asking for something whole. Because marriage energy cannot be built on one person proving themselves forever while the other person stays undecided. It cannot be built on you shrinking yourself to make their fear more comfortable. It cannot be built on you pretending you are okay with less when you know your soul is ready for more. No, this is where both people have to change. They have to come forward with honesty. And you have to receive honesty without abandoning yourself. They have to show growth. And you have to allow yourself to see growth without ignoring your standards. Because your standards are not the problem here. Your standards are part of what woke them up. The fact that you wanted consistency, the fact that you wanted truth, the fact that you could love deeply but still feel when something was not enough, that mattered. That reached them. That showed them they could not keep approaching this connection with the same old energy and expect the same open door. So, what they need from you is not begging, not chasing, not proving that you still care by accepting anything. They need to meet the version of you that still has love, but also has self-respect. The version of you that can say, I hear you, but I need to see it. Because sincere growth deserves space, but it also deserves evidence. And this person knows that now. They know the old way cannot survive where this connection is going. The silence has to die. The pride has to die. The fear of being fully seen has to die, so something real can live. And the deeper reason this connection has gone through all of this is bigger than either of you first understood. Because this connection was never only about timing. It was never only about who reached out first. It was never only about why they pulled back, why you waited, why the space between you felt so heavy. No, there is something here that has been shaping both of you. And with this Queen of Wands in reverse, what I am seeing is the part of this journey where confidence had to be rebuilt from the inside. Not the kind of confidence that performs, not the kind that says, I do not care when the heart is aching. The kind of confidence that remembers its own worth even when love feels uncertain. Because this connection did not come in just to make you question yourself. It came in to reveal where you had been giving from an empty place, where they had been hiding from their own fire, where both of you were being asked to become more honest, more mature, more ready for the kind of love that does not collapse under fear. That is why it felt fated. Not because there was never a choice. There is always a choice. But because this connection touched something deeper than preference. It touched identity. It touched healing. It touched the part of each of you that could no longer keep living from old wounds and calling it protection. And marriage energy, real marriage energy, does not come from two perfect people. It comes from two people who have seen the shadow and still choose to grow. It comes from devotion, from alignment, from learning how to stay open when the old instinct says run. From choosing each other after fear has been exposed. That is why this bond has felt impossible to forget. Because it was not just here to give you butterflies, it was here to change what both of you believe love can be. They had to learn that passion without honesty is not enough. You had to learn that love without self respect is too expensive, and now both lessons are meeting in the same place. A place where this connection can finally become something grounded, something chosen, something that does not need chaos to feel alive. And the final message here is the strongest one yet, because justice is here, and justice does not come in to keep the story unfinished. Justice comes in when the truth has to be honored, when the imbalance has to be corrected, when what was avoided finally has to be faced with both eyes open. And what I am seeing here is simple. This person is beginning to understand that love cannot stay in the shadows and still become alive. It cannot stay hidden. It cannot stay half spoken. It cannot stay trapped between fear and desire. Not anymore, because the scales are asking for something real now. A real apology, a real conversation, a real choice, a real commitment that matches the depth of what both of you have felt. And that is why this connection is moving towards something serious. Not because there was no pain, not because there was no confusion, not because everything happened perfectly, but because the storm showed them what this connection was worth. It showed them what silence costs. It showed them what pride breaks. It showed them that losing peace with you does not feel like freedom. It feels like being out of alignment with their own heart. And now the energy is changing from resistance into responsibility, from confusion into clarity, from emotional distance into the desire to make things right. This is the kind of shift that opens the door to commitment, the kind of shift that makes someone stop saying, I do not know, when deep down they do. The kind of shift that makes them realize love is not proven by longing from far away. It is proven by showing up, by choosing, by being honest when honesty is uncomfortable, by building something steady after the fear has finally been exposed. And I want you to hear this. This connection is not ending as a lesson with no love left in it. It is not ending with two people pretending they forgot. It is not ending with the heart still knowing and the mouth still silent. This is where the truth balances the scales. This is where peace finally becomes possible. This is where the connection stops being a question and starts becoming a decision. Mark my words. What was once resisted is becoming what they are finally ready to choose.